This is Home Games. That is Rick Zamperin from 900 CHML Radio. Bubba O'Neill, face of CHCH TV Sports. Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator, sports columnist, Hall of Famer, award winner. Pretty good guy most of the time. And Scott Radley, that's me from 900 CHML Radio and the Hamilton Spectator. Steve, we are hearing, nothing official as of the time that we're doing this, but we're hearing that there's going to be an outdoor game at Tim Hortons Field this year, a regular season game between the Leafs and the Sabres. Mm-hmm. Good idea. Great success, guaranteed.
Great idea. It's an interesting thing. It's a very real thing. The pursuit of it. Nobody will say anything on the record because I'll say this, and at the point of taping this, is not a done deal. There are quite a few hurdles to overcome yet, plus the unseen hurdles of the pandemic, border crossing, all of those types of things for fans. But it's the kind of thing. It's an awful lot like when they played. When the Sabres played a game in New York, and it was their home game against the Rangers at Citi Field because the Rangers have a deal with Madison Square Gardens that they can't play any home games anywhere but Madison Square Gardens. It's a real deal. I mean, as we all know, there have been 2 games here in the old stadium with various degrees of success. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a really, really good thing. It's the only sort of big stadium in the country left that hasn't had one of these games.
Bubs?
I think it's interesting because I think with the Grey Cup, we're going to get a good look at a remodeled Tim Hortons Field that will allow for up to 40,000 people. And I believe the National Hockey League are going to be looking for the stadium to remain with that kind of look compared to, Tim Hortons Field, which I guess is about 24,000 in its regular configuration. So I think it'll be interesting to see, kind of compare it to the game that happened in Regina that also has a stadium that supports that kind of number. Hey, 2 border teams, this is a can't miss situation. Hopefully it's not a freezing cold day like we did see when Hamilton hosted that AHL game. And of course, I think when there was a strike or something, there was a kind of game. I can't remember what
in a rainstorm. Yeah, in a rainstorm.
In a terrible rainstorm. It was good on the Friday night, but when they played on the Saturday, it was just terrible.
It was a complete disaster. So again, weather always dictates these things. So hopefully it's a good situation in terms of weather. But to me, this is a can't miss. I mean, I know, Scott, you in particular think it's the biggest novelty that's been overused, but I think the numbers show with the National Hockey League that this is a winning product on TV and at the particular sites.
This is, as a hockey fan, you should be excited, whether you're in Hamilton or the GTA or Buffalo, whatever the case is. It's a spectacle for the league. It's, they point to their roots, even though no one really plays on a pond anymore. But I'll say this as well. This is the ultimate tease, and this is the ultimate carrot. Because as we know, Hamilton has wanted a NHL team ever since the Tigers left in 25. And this is the Leafs and Sabres, the 2 teams who would ultimately veto any team being based in Hamilton. So while it's amazing for hockey fans, it's that this is what you could have, Hamilton, but we'll never get.
Hey, the Arizona Coyotes are available.
Again.
Look, so a couple things. Bubba, you're right. The outdoor game was fantastic. It was beautiful when it was in that first one in Buffalo with the snow gently falling, and there have been a couple others, but the NHL has strangled the golden goose here. I think this will be the 4th outdoor game this year. The novelty is so long gone that it's become boring. Who cares anymore? That said, that people here are going to be really excited about the opportunity to go. Here's the downside, though. I will bet right here that what we're going to hear, if this thing is ever announced, is endless grumbling from people because tickets are going to be like $500 or $600 for the cheap ones, and people are going to go, they're gouging us. Well, that's the reality. You want to go, you're going to pay $1,000 to go for a pair, and that's going to lead to endless complaints. But that's the reality. That's what's going to happen.
Complaints. I mean, that's the way. You're right. You're right to say that's the way it is. The part that I think that mitigates that is you turn this into a festival. So there are other events in and around, and that happened before, right? When the Marlies and the Bulldogs played, there were other events around it, and the first one, which was during a lockout, and it was supporting the players and locked out, had an alumni game and all of those kinds of things. So you try to mitigate it by having some other events that people can go to that are affordable and have people there that they can see and reach out and touch.
Steve, I did laugh at the early reports that said there's going to be the Leafs and the Sabres, and before that, there's going to be a game between the Marlies and the Rochester Americans. And I thought, wow, that's going to be a draw here in Hamilton. Nothing like a Marlies Americans game to bring people into the stands. Nothing about the Bulldogs, perhaps, or anything, but yeah, we're anyway.
I think the Bulldogs would like to do that on their own, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had looked at that on their own at one point. I don't know what, put that together. It's too much
Rick, how can you do that? Now, even if the Bulldogs really wanted to do it again, now that the NHL has come, you're going to have to wait 10 years minimum, or else the comparison, no one's going to buy a ticket, because you would have had a chance to see the outdoor game, and you're not going to buy tickets for a Bulldogs game when you could have gone to the Leafs, even if the tickets are $10.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a missed opportunity, but it really is a sticky wicket for the Dogs, because if you're having an AHL game and an NHL game, that OHL game is either going to be, a couple days in advance of those two events or a couple days after. And scheduling wise, it probably just won't work. But yeah, this could be a big missed opportunity for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, maybe they can get in on this somehow. I mean, remember, this hasn't been set yet, right? So then they'll start working on some of the details. But there's going to be some attendant things, and maybe there's some festivals, and a lot of it will have to do with who you have access to. If you're outside of the NHL game, you don't have access to those players other than seeing them. But but who can you have access to, at least, up close, maybe depending on where the pandemic sits at that time, autographs, all of those kinds of things. And that's where things like NHL alumni, Hockey Hall of Fame, all of those kinds of things. And if a Bulldogs can plug into that, if they had a game at that time but it's also when all of the great alumni from the NHL are going to be here, then you can work out something. You make some money there. You get some more interest in your product.
Bubba, let me ask you the question that I'm loath to ask this. I'm actually pinching myself and punishing myself for asking this question, but I'm going to anyway. Somebody already said a moment ago that this is what Hamilton will look at this as, hey, what we could have had. The Arizona Coyotes are without a home, apparently. Does this start up any new conversations about, hey, Hamilton should somehow make a pitch for the Coyotes? Or are you of the opinion that the NHL and Hamilton is a conversation that is so dead, it just can't possibly be revived anymore?
Well, I guess that make it 7 group will be reignited, and then they'll say, look what we've done, and look at the attendance, look at the interest. I mean, there was such a buzz in the city. But I think at the end of the day, you can't satisfy Gary Bettman, who's a smart businessman, and you can say whatever you want about the Arizona Coyotes and the misfits that have gone on there. This city needs a new stadium, and it would have to be a state-of-the-art stadium, no less than 17,000, 18,000. You already got one in Quebec City that's sitting there empty, that plays its biggest event is a Pee-wee tournament in the winter. So until you can get a new stadium in the city of Hamilton, it will be nothing more than grazing and talking and rumors and wishing and wanting, but not getting.
Arizona is going to go to Tempe, right?
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, they're going to end up there at some point. That's the
in where?
Tempe.
Oh, Tempe. I thought you said Tampa. I thought Tampa's going to have 2 teams and Toronto's going to only have 1.
They don't get any new TV markets in the United States by coming into Canada, and that's just one of the issues right now. And they're not going to lose a market the size of Arizona, which is growing. Was it number 5 in the nation right now? It's probably heading towards 3 by the time in the next 15 years or so. They can't leave that area. But
Rick, again, the question is not whether they will come, because I'm with Steve. I don't believe that there's going to be a team here. But does this kind of thing, if this game happens, does this fire up the discussion and make people start clamoring again for a team? Does this at least make the discussion go to the front burner?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the hashtag Make It 8 is already trending on Twitter, I'm sure. Fans in Hamilton have long wanted a team and long think, this city deserves a team. In many respects, back in the 90s when, we were up against Ottawa and the likes, that could have been, the dream come true. But listen, no team that is already based in the U.S. is going to come to Canada. Full stop. It's just not going to happen. Whether, the Coyotes go to Tempe or they go to Houston or they go to Kansas City, whatever the case is, they're not going north of the border. So while this game, will fuel the fire, it's not going to ignite the ignition for Gary Bettman to pull the trigger. It's just not going to happen.
No, I don't
Well,
think so.
and who's the Hamilton businessman right now who would have $700 million US to buy a team? And then, as I think Bubba said,
There'll be no trouble finding the money. Believe me, no trouble finding the money. And let's take the thing out of this.
I'm not convinced of that, Steve.
The real story here is what the real story has always been. It's about a second team in the market of the best hockey market in the world.
Yeah,
right?
two
So
teams that are going to play.
Hamilton, not necessarily Hamilton. Hamilton just happens to be the biggest place. And I mean, Mississauga is bigger than Hamilton.
So the two teams that are going to be playing here that they want us to buy tickets to see are the two teams that are the reason Hamilton doesn't have a franchise. Buy tickets and support us. We kept hockey out of Hamilton.
Yeah, I think that's an old story now. I think that's an old story now.
Hey guys, I know there was the talk of the Maple Leafs and Buffalo buffering or at least halting the likes of a Hamilton businessman or Hamilton businessmen to try to put a team in this city. Is that really what's going on here in 2020? Like, do you really? I mean, we have a New York metropolitan area that's got 3 teams. We have 3 teams in Southern California. Would you not think they would not welcome the competition? I get what happened in the past, but going forward, if there was a new stadium in the city of Hamilton, you do not think that the television Sportsnet, the National Hockey League, you don't think they would want the attention, the further attention, the interest? Doubling more so in Southern Ontario?
We're not sure where the economics of sport are going, particularly of this league and what the broadcast situation eventually. I mean, obviously it's a streaming thing that's on the horizon. So yeah, potentially that could help. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's not about necessarily Hamilton, and you're right to maybe say, okay, who gets the stadium? It is about, can you put and should you put a second team in the largest hockey market in the world, and there are pros and cons of that, and I'm not sure on an American-based league that's a big deal.
Yeah, and Steve, I'm not sure about the money. You say it's a no-brainer, and maybe that's the case. But when a team is now going to cost you $700 million US, so what, $1 billion Canadian, and then an arena, it's you're talking enormous kinds of money now, way bigger than ever.
I'm not saying it would be Hamilton money by any means. In fact, I would be 100% sure that the majority of the money would not be Hamilton money.
But then if that was the case, I don't think they want to come to Hamilton. I think they want to be in the suburb of Toronto.
That's the right place. If you think it's the right place for it, maybe you do, because at least there's a there in Hamilton. That's the one thing that Hamilton always sold, as opposed to some of these suburban places. There is a there here, right? This is an identifiable place.
Yeah, well, maybe. I still think any team would want to be called the Toronto whatevers, and Hamilton now has the Toronto Rock, and we'll see how that plays. But that received, we talked about it here. That received big thumbs down when they tried to keep the Toronto name.
Hamilton here. There'll be Toronto in the States and Hamilton here, and that's the way I think. If they'd been successful in 91 or 2 or 3, I think that's the way it would have gone then as well. They would have been known essentially as Toronto, just like Anaheim is LA, really. So.
Outdoor game possibility. We will see. Sounds like it's probably going to be, but we will see at Tim Hortons Field between the Leafs and the Sabres. Our Twitter handles are going to be up in just a second. If you want to reach us, if you want to comment, we'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to Home Games Hamilton as well. We would love for you to follow us. We do these often. We'd love for you to get notified when they're coming up. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.